It's no secret that when our phones are out, we can become quickly distracted. And this can be particularly troublesome when it happens in a learning environment. With school back in session, the Berkshire County town of Lenox is working to ensure that middle school students stay focused by tightening up their cell phone policy this year. Carolee McGrath sat down with Brian Cogswell, the assistant principal of Lenox Memorial Middle and High School, to go over the new policy and learn about its reasons.
Basically what we're trying to do is tighten things up a little bit with our middle school. So we're a 6 through 12 building, so our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders will really not have the cell phones out at all. Welcome to bring them to school. I've actually had a couple emails from parents, concerned if there was an emergency or something like that, how do they get in touch? So we'll allow them to keep it in their lockers, and change of a ride home or something like that, still an opportunity to be able to get in touch with their folks. With the high school, it will be basically during class time. So they are welcome to have a phone during the passing time between classes. They're welcome to use the phone in study halls, in lunchroom, things along those lines. But we're going to have kind of some cell phone caddies, we're calling them, in each classroom, high school classroom. So when they come in, the phone goes in. When they're on their way out, the phone comes out.
How did it work before that in the high school, though? Because I know that because there's so much technology worked into the lessons each day, I know high school teachers are a little bit more lax about the cell phones being around.
And we kind of left it up to the teachers a little bit more there, because we do have some teachers that like to use the phones or that kind of technology within the classroom. And we've added into the procedure that if there is something in a classroom that a teacher feels that they're needed, she can or he can say, run over and grab something out of the cell phone caddy. We'll bring them all down. We'll do what we need to do, and then we'll pop them back in. Over the last few years, we've shown the movie Screenagers. It's one of those films that they don't throw on Netflix because they really want to encourage the communication between parents and students and administration and teachers and all of that after the movie's done. So we've shown it twice and had very good crowds both times we've shown it, and a lot of support. All the emails that I received from parents were excited, and so we're kind of trying to continue to build on that.
So the bottom line for that documentary is really that we have become, in many ways, addicted to our phones, and our kids have grown up this way.
Sure.
So even though we see adults having this behavior, kids are just so used to, even little ones, with a screen and going from this app to the other app. What have you seen academically or even socially with the interactions of kids? Have you seen a change in behavior and how kids are today versus 20, 25 years ago?
Sure. Well, this is my 32nd year starting in education, my 10th as assistant principal. And I will say my first year, there really weren't cell phone difficulties that showed up in my office anyway. I have noticed that a lot more of things that I deal with discipline-wise in my office, there is some kind of basis of so-and-so posted this, or this Snapchat, this picture was taken of me and shouldn't have been taken, and things along those lines that not only happen in school, but happen outside of school as well. So we get a lot more reactionary things from students around that. I think there's a little bit less of the look you in the eye and actually have a conversation. Even in the lunchroom, you'll see people texting back and forth across the lunchroom.
Right, right. Instead of getting up and walking over.
Right,
But it's also
right.
cell phone etiquette, which I think is an issue that you bring up, not only in the lunchroom, but in class.
Absolutely.
So the teacher is doing this big presentation, let's say on World War II, and you look out and a few kids are texting each other or Snapchatting. I mean, that is a real etiquette problem, not only in high school, but in the real world as well.
Sure. Before we started here, you and I both kind of checked our phones, made sure things were off.
I said, let me turn my phone off before I do the segment, because that would be really embarrassing, but that's
Absolutely.
true, right? We're all doing the same thing.
Yes, and one of the reasons that we've kind of put into the procedure that we'd prefer cell phones to be in a backpack or your locker rather than in the pocket is, you know as well as I do, if I get a buzz here, I'm going to look down and I'm going to lose that concentration.
And talk about that concentration and the distraction of it, even for the kids who are in 6th grade, because they're certainly learning young about this technology, and
Sure.
a lot of kids are carrying the phones. Being able to concentrate in school has to be a big challenge if you constantly are buzzing.
I will agree with that, and I think that a lot of that focus kind of comes from your ability to be able to have the one-on-one conversation or be able to focus on the person rather than focus on the screen. Part of that Screenager said 5 to 6 hours every day, not including school education time young people are spending on their screens.
Does that shock you?
It absolutely
it goes
shocked
by.
me.
I guess it goes by like that,
It
though.
does.
Like
It
all of a
does.
sudden you look down at your phone because I know that they can give you screen time.
Right, right.
And you think, no way,
Yeah.
that's impossible. But
I think there's kids that get stuck in a game they've got here, and then all of a sudden they look up and an hour and a half have passed, and that kind of makes a big jump as far as the number of hours and things go.
What do you see as far as social media and phones? Because I know that you said some of the disciplinary problems you've had has been from something that was posted that somebody else wishes that was not posted.
Absolutely.
And I know that can have a big impact on relationships, on self-esteem in school as well.
And there's so much, even with an Instagram or a Snapchat or something like that, where the person sitting next to me is the one that's going to comment, and I might like the picture, but the person said something that's not necessarily appropriate. And because it's kind of out there, you never know who else is going to see it. One of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to do some education around what's your footprint. So when you start applying for colleges, you start looking for jobs, and now your prospective employer or the person that's going to get you into that school is not just reading your resume, they're also pulling up what you have on Facebook.
Right.
They're pulling up what you look like on Instagram.
Right.
And how is that going to affect
You have a
us?
trail.
Absolutely.
that it's hard to erase.
Absolutely.
What about for parents? You had mentioned some parents were concerned about being able to reach their kids during school, which has always been a concern, with all the different things going on
Sure.
today and the worries about sending kids off to school. You want to be able to get to them immediately if there's an emergency. And you did bring up a good point that kids can check their phones in those situations.
Right, and we have a phone in every classroom. We also have 2 or 3 different people that answer the phone at different times during the day at school. So if a parent really needs to get in touch with somebody with a message during the day, we'll deliver things between classes and things along those lines. But the difficult part, of course, is if there's an actual school emergency. And then, but one of the things, talking with some of our state police people that are kind of helping us out with some different things, along with our local Lenox police, they would prefer that cell phones are turned off during an emergency because it actually causes problem with their ability to communicate when there's so many different things happening with cell phones around them. So,
But the bottom line is, obviously, these phones are with us, right? This is the way of the
Absolutely.
world now. It's just the
Absolutely.
way kids are growing up.
Sure.
But there's a time and a place, and even if you cut back just a little bit, right?
Yeah,
It's going to
yeah.
be very helpful during the day.
And we even try to, we've sent different things home to parents. Once a month we kind of send a little blurb home to parents, and we've even, from that screenagers, they talked about putting together a cell phone contract where you have to have your homework done before you pull out your phone to play your games. You have to do this before you pull out. You have to get whatever your duties are at home, whether it's doing the dishes, making your bed, whatever the case may be, helping out at home a little bit before you have that screen time, that extra screen time. And so we've thrown some things home to parents that, maybe you look at something like this and you actually have that conversation, especially the younger people when they're first starting to come out with the cell phones. You want an iPhone instead of the flip phone, then let's follow these instructions, let's follow these rules and kind of work ourselves forward from there.